Good evening, Amit, the other participants, the invited guests. We've been meeting off and on in different places for and trying to understand each other a little better. Because I say try and understand each other a little better because structurally we belong to the different sides. We being the regulators for management education, and you promoting the management education in terms of the processes. We seem to have 3-4 areas of concern which we've been discussing at several times in different contexts, and I would want to just highlight those concerns and what probably we need to do in future. First is, after having spent almost more than 5 years now in this place as a regulator for technical education, I've realized, albeit on a personal note, that the entire regulatory process, in as much as the other side of the story, the other side of the regulator, both of them need to acknowledge the changing context, the changing environment, and probably reinvent themselves, both. I'm not limiting that to the institutions, but I'm also saying that the regulators need to reinvent the entire paradigm of higher education, not just the management education. Because a lot of changes have been happening both in this country as well as outside this country, and the changes impact, because today the distances don't separate, so therefore the changes that happen anywhere in the world, they impact the rest of the society in a very significant way. Coming back to what we are doing in this country and how I relate to what the changing scenario is. Yes, we have a large system, we have a large number of institutions and so on. We need to acknowledge that, and some of those institutions in that space are doing extremely well, but they're doing extremely well, but then they're sticking to very, very conventional ways of operating. Now, whether that is a model which will sustain them in future is something that we all need to understand and explore the other possibilities that one has. So, we have very fixed curriculum to teach in most of it. There is some experimentation that goes on, there is some value addition that goes on. In spite of that, there are very structured methodologies which we follow, and the certifications that we do, be it to an institution or be it to the university systems, they all follow a very straight pattern. They all follow a straight system. But if you look at the the demand side, where do our graduates go for employment, if you look at that side of the story, a lot has been changing there as well. No longer the industries have the conventional systems in place. A lot of outsourcing has been happening even within the industry. Even the entire HR activities are outsourced in many of the large companies. And the entire process that is within the industry itself is changing. For example, 20 years back, 25 years back, the larger companies, as we know, are not functioning the same way as they used to function then, today. So we need to acknowledge all that, the changing roles, the changing strategies within the organizations and so on. And therefore, coming back, we need to relook at what we are doing within the universities, within our institutions, and how this relates to the changing scene within the industries which absorb our students. What I am saying is, if we stick to the straight methods as a marketing guy, finance guy, or whatever specialization that we do in the management sector, are they really relevant to an industry that we have today, and are they really relevant to an industry which we will probably have in future, or the way they have been changing over a period of time? So today what probably we need are people who have a good understanding of the entire processes that happen within the industry, not just the marketing or the finance or and so on. Most of the systems within the manufacturing side or the production side have become highly interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary and so on. And therefore, are we really creating people to fit into that space in our conduct of the programs? Now this is extremely important in the sense that today the qualities that one looks at for in a management graduate who comes after doing probably a BCom or a BSc, and the value proposition that somebody carries who has a professional degree before that and also does a management program, there is a big difference, there is a big gap. And the essential point is, these people, the so-called management graduates, need to understand the downstream activities that happen within the industry and appreciate the change that has been happening there and bring the management principles into operation at that level. It's not pure teaching of the finance principles or the marketing strategies which are going to help probably in future. There are also management institutions today, the better ones. I mean, I've been saying this. I have seen some of the IIMs which we have, where I represent some of the IIMs on the board. What has been happening is different strategies have been floated around. People today are saying that we will go to the industry, create a clientele there, and create specific programs for them, and also do the training in as different a proposition as saying that I'll go and do this in a rented premise for a specific body of people and a specific program. Now why is this happening? Because if you see the major industries would probably not invest in an in-house training. They would rather outsource that, and they would need a very specific program as is applicable to their industry, and they would want the best of the institutions to create programs for that purpose. And many of the IIMs have been toying with this idea, and it's not necessary that you have a 2-year leave that you take and come and join a program and back and things like that. So the whole scene has been changing, and we need to really look at what is the change that has been happening within the industry and customize the entire approach to management education in future. Probably in future you will need to do much more specific training, in-house training which is highly focused to specific requirement, specific needs, and so on. If I expect that a company like Infosys or Siemens or a pharmaceutical company would send their personnel back to an institute, give them leave, I don't think those kind of things are any more valid. So the entire approach to the conduct of a management program we need to really relook and so on. This is the first proposition that I am making. The second proposition is, or the second concern is, there are a lot of institutions, a lot of management institutions, the better ones amongst them are probably looking at a certain fee as a charge for their effort, or the so-called tuition fee, as something that is in comparison to what others in their area would be doing. Now I don't think this kind of things would probably be accepted in future as it's been happening now. There is a value for money, that what is for what is being done, and in time to come everybody involved in this would actually see what am I getting for the kind of money that I'm spending. So therefore it's extremely necessary that the value proposition within the program supports the kind of fees that one charges. And especially in a country like this, if somebody says that my program costs maybe 15 lakhs or 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs or whatever, increasingly, believe me, increasingly the participants would ask why, and where is the every rupee that goes into as tuition fee is actually reflecting in terms of the total delivery that is taking place. And everybody wants quality institutions to thrive, everybody wants quality education, but quality certainly comes at a price, but we need to really look at what is that rational revenue model that people would accept. It's not saying that IIM X charges so much. I believe I am as good as IIM because I get the best of the students as an IIM gets, and therefore I need to charge as much as an IIM does. And believe me, even IIMs would not probably go through that, or probably would go through the same phase as the other institutions are doing. Today, in order to cut costs, even some of the IIMs are going to the industry, cut the cost, do the training program in their premise for the time that they are looking at, and so on. Now, all this point, it's not question of what you charge. It's a question of what you charge and what is that value for money that you deliver. People are going to ask these questions. It's not a regulator. It's not anything in that space. It's not a regulator. I mean, even today, A regulator may say whatever, but the ground reality today is that you fix your fees, you charge your fees. But believe me, you will need to really relook at what is happening there, regulator or no regulator. Because the whole system is becoming so competitive, so optimized on all deliverables, and every single deliverable has a certain price, and all this unit cost that you attach to each of the deliverable ultimately should result in what is your cost to education. And if you say that my development is so much, so be it, but it needs to be accounted somewhere. The third concern that I have is regarding the ranking, the ratings and things like that. Whether it should be ranking, whether it should be rating, these debates will go on depending on the local context that we have in each of those countries that we're talking about. But two main causes of worry for education here, be it management or technical or whatever, is the almost total lack of the internationalization of education here. I would not probably see too many people coming from the best of the institutions outside this country, spending time at least 2 months, 3 months, maybe once in a year in our institutions, getting the expertise that they have to make these institutions a little more aligned to what happens in the rest of the world. That doesn't seem to be happening. I get all kinds of data as a pure regulator. I get data. The people are coming from here, there, so on. But it's more. I mean, you yourself can look at your institutions and see what is that participation that happens at the faculty level in terms of delivery of your objectives, in terms of management principles, management strategies that happen outside, and so on. For example, in many of the good institutions, there are a lot of funding that happens around publications. There's a lot of funding that happens, especially in the management schools. But I'll be very surprised if there are institutions which actually do a lot of publishing as an activity within the management schools here. And the other related point is the lack of international students in our institutions. The almost absence. I mean, what it is because of, I wouldn't know. Are the rules bad that the people don't come here, or is the quality so bad that they don't come, or is it so expensive that they don't come? Any one of these could be the reasons. But in order to really promote the best of education, you need to come out of that local syndrome, get that cross-cultural activities going, idea exchange from different places and so on. How can that be done? I don't expect, even if you open up all the avenues, I don't think people from the US would come here and take admission in our colleges. I don't think people from UK would come and do that, except for some very personal reasons. But there's a whole world outside in our own area. There's a whole of Asia which is there, where our institutions are much, much better than many of the countries around. Now, that being the case, why is even that internationalization not really happening? As far as we are concerned, we have opened up the system. We have got a regulation in place which says that all seats that remain vacant can be given to foreign students. That's a regulation in place today. And people said the colleges which don't count have vacancies. So what is your regulation going to do anyway in those colleges which don't attract even the local guys? My point is, we have looked at that and we have said 15% of the intake can be given to all foreign students if there are no vacancies. Now what more is required. Now what is required probably is to see how you get your teaching learning process to a level, to an international level, where people would be attracted to come down to our institutions. It's not so much as filling the seats. It's so much of the cross-cultural idea exchanges that help the institutions to build quality. Now once simple things, once people from outside come, they will put pressure on your systems to deliver, and once that happens, there will be a moment which sees that the quality improves. If you don't do that, you'll perish. As simple as that. Now these some of the immediate things that come. There's one other aspect which we've been talking for a long time. The concern of many of you, which many of you who have come back and said that you have opened colleges at all kinds of places, and therefore there are a lot of vacancies and quality going down and things like that. My question is, how do you relate vacancies in a system to a quality that an institution provides? Now what is that relationship? I have not really found a relationship on that. If you are doing well, if you have quality, if you deliver on standards which the outside world recognizes, then you will get the students. I mean, there are a number of institutions where finding an admission is extremely difficult. Now, that being the case, how do you say that vacancies affect that? This is the first proposition. The second proposition is, this is a market economy. Market forces will certainly take over, though the constitution of the country says that education is not for profit, but I know, you know, most of the institutions work for profit. One who says that I'm not working for profit, I don't know. So therefore, the point is, without saying that, we try and create a regulatory mechanism where people would be forced to break that. So therefore, somewhere you need to create a enabling mechanism where the best of the people would thrive, but with accountability. It's not a free market in that sense anywhere in the world. A regulator exists for every activity everywhere in the world, and therefore we need to recognize these facts, and since it's a purely market driven activity, the whole process allows, this is a free society, the process allows somebody to set up institutions, somebody to close institution. All these are basic democratic processes. A regulator cannot come in and say that I will not allow a certain institution to come up because I perceive that he cannot provide quality, and I perceive that this fellow doesn't get students because that fellow is opening shop. Now these are very ideologically different arguments. They don't hold. What is required is, if 10 colleges close, let them close. If 10 courses close, let them close. The bad ones will close anyway. The good ones should thrive. And only when you have a bad one, you will know the worth of the other one. So therefore, these are all simple issues. I don't think the institution should be too perturbed about what the AICTE does or how many colleges open, how many vacancies. I can tell you one simple fact. Forget about how many colleges open, how many colleges close and so on. Why should I be bothered about that? As long as I know that the rate of enrollment is increasing every year. And that's for sure. The rate of enrollment every year in this country for all disciplines is increasing, which means there are more students coming into the system. Yes, in the last 3-4 years that rate seems to be plateauing. Now that may be a cause for concern, that may be a cause for relooking at the systems, creating a new energy within the system which will improve the standards and so on. So these are some of the things that I thought I could talk to you. As far as we are concerned, like I started off in the beginning, the entire process, the regulatory process included, should probably be relooking at the whole paradigm. And I can only say that we have been also changing within the systems. We've been changing the systems, and we also recognize that there are some good institutions which need to be promoted to become better. There is a body of institutions which need a lot of inputs, but they have the potential to grow. We need to identify that. And there is also a system, fairly large, which needs huge inputs so that they make the grade. But it doesn't mean that you cut out the base of the pyramid, remove the bad ones, but that will affect the principle of equity. I mean, this is a large country. There are all kinds of diverse things. It's not that somebody should not study because he doesn't have quality. Or there are all kinds of institutions. Good ones will be there, bad ones will be there. Good students will be there, bad students will be there. Like water finds its own level, the students also will find their own level when they go to institutions. That's a process that will happen. What we need to do is create enabling mechanisms so that the better ones become best, the poor ones become better, and so on. Now, in order to do this, two things have to happen. First is identify where is this threshold of what is good, what is bad, and so on. And the second is, what are those enabling mechanisms which we need to put in place. So to do that, I mean, I have no easy answers to do this. It's very fine coming here talking about it, you talking about it. You should leave good institutions to do what they want, and so on. But it's no free service anywhere. Everything has to be accountable. It's not that somebody is left free to do what he wants. No system works like that. So therefore, the enabling mechanisms have to define what that is. And therefore, we are actually looking at creating a committee within the organization which will precisely look at this. What is that benchmark that you talk about in terms of defining a good institution? And in our system, which are those good institutions? I don't know if what an IIM does is the best. I don't know. Everyone has their own ways of delivery and so on. So therefore, we need to identify which are those systems, which are those institutions in our system which get to that benchmark. I don't know what that benchmark is. I have some ideas. And we also need to find out what is the threshold. What are those institutions which have the potential but need a lot of help along the way? What is that help? In order to define these kind of things and come out with a policy which will let the management education thrive in this country. In order to do this, we are constituting a committee, and hopefully we will come out. And as management institutions, you need to look at new paradigms, new activities. The skill education is a huge area that is coming up in this country. Half the population of this country will be below 25 years age, which is a huge advantage, and it's a huge disaster if you do not really look at them. And the management institutions have a huge role to play in the sense that management education, I don't believe, is just making a person prepared to work in a certain environment. Management should also move towards creating new job opportunities, towards creating new avenues. And in this country, if I say 1 million engineers pass out every year, today I cannot make a statement that 1 million jobs at that level are available year after year. If that being the case, there is a huge challenge to you, to all the management institutions, to find out what are those areas in this system which will create job opportunities, new job opportunities, new creation of new entrepreneurs, and so on. So that's extremely important. And what are those new connect that you will have with a 90% unorganized sector and a 10% organized sector? All the jobs that we are talking about, be it an Infosys or be it a Siemens or L&T or Godrej, these are all small, very small number, just about 10% of the jobs. 90% of your economy thrives within that unorganized sector, which probably is unheard of in places outside. In Europe, probably what is unorganized sector is a question that people will ask you. So therefore, we need to look at what is that unorganized sector, what are the strategies that management institutions can bring about to reduce that unorganized sector to something that is manageable. A simple thing like there are huge constructions going on around the place, and where does the money come from? Everything is paid in cash. The construction boss would get cash, pay cash in the evening to all the laborers, no accounts, no receipts, nothing. So huge amount of money transactions take place, and that creates parallel economies, it creates the obviously corruption and so on. So what are those strategies which will short circuit this, and that's the way to grow. That will provide new job opportunities, new ways of looking at things, new ways of conducting business, and a win-win probably for everybody if we manage to do all that. Thank you.